Modi came at 10 o'clock and announced that India has extended its lockdown till 3rd May. So social distancing is certainly one of the solutions. What I am going to talk, and I'm really honored to have a panel of distinguished experts. The world, we are at war. There is no doubt. The entire world is at war, and for the first time, I think in history, the war is not with any individual, or the war is not being fought by AK-47 or missiles or neither atom bomb. This is the first time that the world is fighting a war with a virus we can't see in our bare eyes, and that is what is creating problem. Most of the developed and advanced countries where who rank on top in the world health ranking are somehow severely struggling to find a solution to the problem it has imposed and forced on us. But the bigger crisis is that the world has seen many such health epidemics before, but this is one of such health crises which has also put the economies of the world in a standstill, in a shutdown mode. I think this is the unique feature of this world epidemic called the COVID-19 or coronavirus epidemic that we are observing in in this critical time of today. Now, if you do Google, you find recession. Now, when we are talking about corona epidemic, often the top ranking Google words are coming up are recession, unemployment, and another word which is taking center stage and more ranking is a Great Depression. So now a large section of intellectuals are somewhere not very clear which word fits the most in the current situation, the current economic situation that we are facing. Now, just to give a brief background to our viewers, in fact, our experts, eminent experts that we have now panel today, they will brief. But before that, let me just introduce our panelists today. Dr. Enamul Haque is the Director, Asian Center for Development. He has joined us from Bangladesh. Welcome to our show. Professor Achyut Wagle, Professor, Kathmandu University School of Management, joining us from Kathmandu, Nepal. I want to welcome Professor Saudamini Das, NABARD Chair Professor from the Institute of Economic Growth. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us today. I want to invite CA Chartered Accountant Vinod Jain, founder and chairman of Vinod Kumar and Associates, one of the India's most intelligent and ranking chartered accountants, and he ranked in the board of chartered accountant exam in 1977. He was 7th, I think, in the first exam, and then 13th in the final exam. Mr. Sunil Talati, managing partner, Talati and Talati LLP, one of the leading Indian financial consulting firm. Along with that, we have our regular experts, Professor Ujjwal K Chowdhury, Pro VC, Adamas University, and we have our senior journalist, Prashant Tandon. Thank you so much for joining us. A recession is something, viewers, for us to just to make it simple, recession is something, a gradual decline of the economic growth for a couple of months, maybe 2 quarters. That's how the world defines recession. A Great Depression or depression is the one when there is gradual decline of economic growth over a long period of time. That long period of time can be a couple of months and couple of years. So when a recession leads to a deep and deeper economic stagnation, that becomes a recession. Thank you so much. And I want to, without presenting some facts, I want to come to Professor Ujjwal K Chowdhury just to give the opening remark. Is it a simple recession that we should see as, or it is an indication of a deeper recession?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Akram Haq. But before speaking, I request everyone to put their mics on mute. Whenever anyone speaks, everyone else, because that will save us from the disturbance of the ambience disturbance of every location. It's good to have experts from 3 nations. I think we already had 2 nations experts in earlier shows, but the first time we are having 3 nations experts in this show. And it's a very important topic that you have taken up. The whole country, the whole world is thinking over, and we in South Asia, we are all South Asians. In South Asia, this is a major issue of concern today because we are having the disease and the hunger both hand in hand at this point of time. So it's not only death from disease, but death from hunger as well. To put the concepts very briefly in place, slowdown is when a growth rate or GDP growth rate, let's say, uh, slows down. So we were 7.5% growth rate sometime earlier, then we became 6, then 5, and we are now 4.6% before the start of the COVID crisis. So in India, so that's a slowdown. In case of Bangladesh, I have been hearing it's a growing economy. It has gone above 8%, which is great. I really congratulate the people of Bangladesh having put forth such hard work to make 8% growth rate, which is the highest in the in the South Asian region. So that's a slowdown when it slows down the rate, but still positive. Recession happens when for 2 successive quarters there is a negative growth. So it is not about slowing down of the GDP growth rate; it is actually becoming negative GDP growth rate. So that has already happened in many economies around the world, even in recent times, even in developed economies for that matter. So recession will bring in drop in of orders, stock prices tumbling, interest rates tumbling, rise of the bond prices, around 5 to 6% of the unemployment rate. This will be recession. But when you go further, when it becomes 3 or more quarters, real GDP is going down, is becoming negative, and repeatedly negative 3 to 4 quarters, then you get into Great Recession. And you had that Great Recession in 2008, 9, 10 period in US, and that affected the whole world, even including South Asia. The 6 indicators normally there: decline in real income, 3 to 4 quarters of real GDP growth negative, companies going bankrupt, unemployment above 9%. And at that point of time, US unemployment in 2009 went up to 10.8%, which was highest in that period. So that's sort of a Great Recession. So for sure, this COVID is going towards Great Recession. Now, depression. Depression technically has been called 1929 to 1933 period at the very beginning, at the first, I mean, almost 100 years ago and 90 years ago. So that time, the unemployment rose globally to 25.59%. Even in developed countries, it was more than 20%. So that's phenomenal sort of a situation. I shudder to think if that happens in this world once again just now, it will be half the economy and half the population will completely die out. I mean, it will go to, I don't think that much crisis will happen. At this point of time, coming to the current situation, March second half, we had in US 5.3% unemployment. 3 million people filed for unemployment benefits in the March last week. And 3 million people brought unemployment rate to 5.3%, which shows that recession is surely set in US. India, in April this month, beginning, Council for Monitoring Indian Economy says 72 million people in the organized sector will not have a salary in April. And if you include the unorganized sector, it will be 119 million. That's phenomenal number. 11 crores, 11.9 crores will not have a paycheck in April. And that includes the migrant laborer also. So COVID impact, certain economies have had a huge impact. The largest volume and value of business in the world is arms and ammunitions. Sale and purchase of arms and ammunition are all stopped. So obviously we do not want that also, but I'm saying it affects the economy. Second largest economy of the world is food and beverage. All restaurants have stopped. All hotels have stopped. Third largest sector of the economy is travel and tourism. Travel, aviation, tourism, transport almost stopped. I mean, across the world, minor movements are going on. So entertainment stopped. SupChina.com, they have come out selling the 240,000 Chinese companies have declared bankruptcy in the first quarter of this year. That means up to March. That means 36% of private-owned firms in China have closed down in the last quarter. China may not tell this all officially through their official media, but the situation is extremely bad there as well. So given this initial comments, I would like to say we are surely for a great repression. We are surely moving towards a great recession. Sorry, repression alongside comes. That's another issue. That's a political issue. But great recession we are moving towards. I do not know about great depression though. Surely we are into moving towards.
Thank you so much, Professor Chowdhury. I would request all our experts to give at least use 3 minutes, not more than that, to give your opening remarks, and then we'll open for questions. And I first want to go to our experts and economists from neighboring countries. Maybe Dr. Enamul Haque, if you give your opening remarks, is it a great depression you see it? Because Bangladesh is one of the fastest growing emerging countries now. So do you think it's a recession or a depression?
I think the analysis that Professor Ujjwal has presented is quite nice. When I look into it, we are surely in a standstill scenario right now. The standard economic analysis, when we talk about recession or depression, it is not from a phenomena we are in today. Remember, what we are in today is all the governments in the world has stopped everyone not to work. So this is not a natural business cycle through which economy is slowing down. So that is one issue that should differentiate compared to the other phenomena of recession and depression. That's one issue that I thought that is important for us to understand, because once you lift the bans on, once the things, your new normal comes in, whatever way it will come back, the economy will jump back. So it is not a standard way of thinking recession the way we look into depression. That is one. Second, I don't think countries like Bangladesh has, there will be a drop of its GDP growth rate, because from March we are in basically closed. So obviously there will be rate of growth will go down. And once the rate of growth will go down, it is still going to be positive in most of the countries. I'm pretty sure it will be same for India. It will be same for most of the countries in the South Asian region. So we probably will not see the way that you see the recessions that in Northern Americans, where the GDP falls significantly. So that is not going to happen. What will happen is that the rate of growth will slow down, and obviously it is going to create more joblessness, more unemployment in the economy. That is definitely for sure. So unemployment,
right? Yeah.
Okay. So from unemployment side, you will see that unemployment has gone up. But as I said, since the whole thing has been triggered by a state-led regime change that you cannot work anymore. So my own feeling is that if we can get over with it very quickly, we will not see much. The economy will push it back to the normal scenario. There will be some drop in the growth rate where it happens. But if it continues for longer time, and if we cannot find an alternative, I think that will be the time when we should seriously think about how to get out of it. But at the moment, I think it's a government-led forceful stopping of work. Restaurants are stopped, tourism facilities are stopped, schools, colleges, universities are all stopped. So remember, the whole economic activity has stopped, not because nobody wanted to. So that is a different phenomena than what you see, a standard economic analysis of recession.
Thank you so much, Professor Haque. I want to come to Professor Wagle, your opening comments, and you said you had a different take on the issue that is going on. Professor Wagle, if you can hear us, I think there is slight issue with your internet connection. So okay, we'll take you later. Yeah, Professor Wagle, can you hear us? Okay. So I want to come to three.
So I think all.
Professor Wagle, you have some. I think you can mute the video. You would like to increase your internet.
I can hear.
You can hear us, but we can't hear you. There's noise, so you can mute the. You can stop the video. You can continue with the voice. So you can continue with the voice. Can you hear us? I'll take you later, but I come to our Indian experts now, and maybe Vinod Jain ji will be the first one. I would like to have your comment. What is the magnitude of the impact that you see? Then I'll come to Sunil Talati.
Is it for me?
Professor Wagle, are you back? Okay, if you can hear. So,
yeah.
Please.
Okay, so first of all, the narratives and then definitions of the word depression, recession are the post-event, ex-post phenomena. They came later when those actions happened. So I see the the definition is not important, but this is going to be, for certain reasons, mother of all depressions, I would see. There are, it is going to be from 5 major kind of recession and depression we had in the last 100 years. 2021 depression, and then the 29-30 Great Depression, oil crisis of 1973, financial crisis 1997, and Great Recession, we say, of 2009. One of fundamental difference with this 19 is the trigger of all those recession and depression was economic. Either it came from the banking crisis, or the regulatory dysfunction, or the capital markets, like if you think of a Great Depression in 1920. But the trigger is different this time. So it has got completely different dimension for 5 regions, I think. One is the disruption of the production facilities all over the world in 210 economies. So it is the global layoff of unprecedented level of. And third is the broken supply chain, not only at the global level, even at the local level. And the fourth is the hitting hard of the livelihood, particularly vulnerable. The fifth, I think, the liberal values we so cherished for so long, making economics, all the economies are now looking. If you look at the one press statement by UNCTAD on March 30, it very specifically said that every economy should now have their capital goals, particularly the developing countries, so that the capital does not flow out. So it is the completely opposite antithesis narrative that we are going sort of opposite direction. So this instance, we will have the name of the whether it is a Great Depression, Mother Depression, but it is going to be very pervasive.
Okay, thank you so much. I think there's some issue, Professor Wagle. If you can kindly work on the internet connectivity. Chartered Accountant Vinod Jain and Sunil Talati ji, your view, what is the magnitude of economic catastrophe or impact that this corona economic pressure is going to bring in? The corona crisis is going to bring in?
Yeah. The economic, we call it recession. When depression, there are 3 distresses. One is the price distress. The producers do not have the incentive. Second one is the consumer distress. They buy, and then the lower equilibrium of supply and demand.
Professor Wagle, I'll come back to
investment
you. I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you with for more details. I want to request Vinod Jain ji to give his remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Akramji. I think I will really call this is unprecedented corona virus related impact on economy as not a recession. I'll call it a vacation. And I think in accountants language, we call it an extraordinary event actually. And while you're calculating GDP numbers for the current year, that is 2020-21, I think the period in which there is the lockdown because of health reasons, we need to exclude this period in the calculation. That is one thing I like to say, because all these theoretical numbers otherwise are going to really misguide us. By this extraordinary period of at least there is the next 2-3 months, the activities will be very, very severely impacted all across the world. Because when we see US, for example, US, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, entire Europe, and of course China and Russia, the gravity is very, very deep as compared to, of course, India and several other countries where the gravity of COVID-19 is not that deep. And it is a voluntary lockdown. And when I see India more particularly, the impact directly which I really look at it, I like to go industry by industry or maybe area by area, sector by sector. When we see agriculture, you see in agriculture sector, this is the reaping season primarily, and the sowing season is little far away. So even if there is no activity for another 1 month or 1.5 months of sowing, it is not that material because the crop is already there. The crop is there in the farm, and it has to really come to the market. The only thing we need to ensure is in the next 15 days, we are able to cut this crop and bring it at least to the go downs. I don't think agriculture, there is very much loss, even if next 1.5 months, there is no activity of sowing, also because sowing season is little far away. When it comes to industry, I think next, as with Honorable Prime Minister has announced that they will review it on 20th April again. At least areas where corona is not there, there's no single case of corona in last 10 days, 7 days, whatever period they'll decide. Accordingly, they will possibly make it free for operations, at least within that area. And when I see district-wise, that there are 273 districts in India which are today completely corona-free. And accordingly, we expect that there's no corona case at all. Then there are about 100 more districts in which there has been corona cases earlier, but last 10, 12 days, there's no additional corona case. So I think that is how it is going to get distinguished. So out of 700 plus district, about 50% district we see that maybe by 20th April, this is a recheck period which the government has kept with themselves. Possibly industries as well as other businesses locally will start working. Construction will also begin. Production will also begin. Logistic within those areas will also begin. And possibly government may even permit goods movement even from one district to another district also. That is what I see. As far as trade is concerned, I think the most severe impact is going to be in the trade. To start with, it is going to have a severe impact on the international trade. The import as well as export is practically going to suffer for another 6 months, maybe for a year. And this is going to be the major loss to the Indian economy. That is what I see. Like financial market, when I see the financial market today, about 80-85% of the financial market is controlled from US in the world. And when US is in a limbo and no financial market is in operation, and it appears that US may take at least 3 months, if not 6 months, to really come back to some operation, what to talk of normal operation. Although the president is saying that he will announce lockdown to be opened very soon, but looks very unlikely looking into the size of the problem in US, looks very unlikely. So international financial service is also going to get impacted, whether we are talking of international stock exchanges, whether we are talking of commodity exchanges, or whether we are talking of private equity investment or FII investment, all that is bound to suffer very, very deep. So India is bound to be definitely directly suffering from this, and this is definitely going to have an impact. So expecting a normal GDP growth is out of question. I personally feel still, in spite of this, suppose we are able to come back to coming back to normal even on 4th May 2020, even then 2021, I see that at least we will be able to do as much work as we did last year in 1920. I am excluding this period of 1.5 months. That 1.5 months which goes to Corona, we have to actually exclude in calculation. So accordingly, still GDP growth, I'll see at least 3 to 4% GDP growth in spite of all these odds.
Okay.
Although tourism, travel, construction, hospitality, entertainment, all are bound to suffer very heavily. And but I don't see any negative growth coming to India, at least the way we see the Indian economy. As far as service sector is concerned, we have seen people have started learning, working from home. And I think a good number of people, even in accountant and audit, I think we have started working from home, and directly, through remote, people are actually getting into the accounts of the clients, and audits have started.
Thank you.
Accounting
Thank
finalization
you
has
so much,
started.
Vinod Jain ji. We'll come back to you. I'll come back to you with for more details. I just want to have some quick initial comments by others.
Okay. I leave it here.
Sunil Talati ji.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'll be very categorical, and let me explain in very categorical the beginning. I am not at all a pessimist. I am an extremely optimist person, and Vinod Jain was my colleague in the council when I was president of the ICAI, would bear with me that how optimistic I had been on various issues. But when a specific question is raised, which we are discussing, are we heading toward a recession or depression? My very clear, authentic, positive, and clear view, not an estimate, view is that yes, we are heading toward a great depression. All those who are sitting here, we have seen, heard, or read with regard to the depression of 1920s and 1930s. No one has witnessed this, but we all are now witnessing this peculiar depression coming to our country, or for that matter to the world and globe. And why I say so? Let us be clear that shutdown is not only from 24th of April. Many of the firms and industries had slowed down from 21st of April. So 21st of April to 30th April and then 3rd May. Almost 6 weeks of total shutdown and closure. Imagine the loss of the industries and production. In today's newspaper, it has been mentioned that the loss as of 12th of April is 8 lakh crore rupees. Now, if after Honorable PM announced the further extension up to 3rd May, it will be not another 8 lakh crore, but it will be at least 10 lakh crore more. So 18 lakh crore rupees of loss is for sure by 3rd of May. And mind well, gentlemen, on 3rd May, it is not going to be just a switch start and all the production is going to happen. Can you imagine that the total queue at the Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust and Bombay Port Trust of ships which are pending and waiting for their unloading has crossed the international border? That is the rush at the international border of ships who are bringing the cargo. Imagine, government will allow them to unload gradually, first priority items and then other industrial items. So it is extremely clear that by 31st of May, we will be having a net deficit of 20 lakh crores of rupees. And imagine this 20 lakh crore rupees in a recession which has already started prior to Corona. We were at 7.5, as mentioned by earlier speaker, reduced to 5.5, and now estimated at 4 at present. And IMF has predicted that by December 20, it will be just 1.5% of GDP. Now, if that is the GDP of a country which was double digit 7 years before, what it could be? It is not a recession. Recession means slowdown or countdown for at least 2 quarters. But then we have already faced more than 3 quarters of recession and 1 more quarter of this, and then 1 more quarter to start with of the backlog. So effectively, there will be 4 quarters of severe recession, which in my view would lead to a Great Depression. I will come back to with regard to the statistics and data, because I am a chartered accountant and not an economist. So we will talk on facts and figures. And when we will come next on the round, I will explain why do I say so, that India is heading toward a Great Depression and not a temporary recession.
Thank you so much, Sunil Talati. According to you, so we are heading towards a deeper and deeper recession. I want to come to Dr. and Professor Saudamini Das from Institute of Economic Growth. Ma'am, how do you see the picture? Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji addressed the nation today morning at 10 a.m. Did you see the kind of economic panic from his speech? Where do you stand today, and where are we heading? Yeah, you can continue. Okay, we can't hear you, ma'am. So maybe. So, okay. Can you unmute your system if you can?
She was unmuted, but there is some problem, it seems.
Okay.
No, you unmute again.
Please unmute again. So this is the glitch of having a conference through technology. Okay, I am unmuting you. So please speak now. Yeah, please speak now. Okay. So there is issue with your sound system, ma'am. So if you can disconnect and connect again, we'd be very happy to have you back. So if you disconnect it and then please click on the link and connect again. In the meantime, I want to pose for my Indian experts we have. My question to Professor Das was, today morning, our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji addressed the nation and he announced the extension of the lockdown from today, 14th April to 3rd of May. There's no doubt there is no other option other than social distancing as a immediate prevention measure to stop the spread of corona in India. The country is also working to improvise and improve the healthcare system. Was there any economic panic the way our experts we are discussing here? Do you see from the Prime Minister's address today that economic crisis is a priority to address at this moment? Anyone from the Indian experts can address it.
I don't think Prime Minister has actually expressed any indication of that there is a question of a panic. The only mainly thing which he expressed was in relation to agriculture, that will ensure that agriculture activity do not suffer, because that is the immediate priority. And of course, he has indicated his desire to start maybe industrial activity as well as construction activity and other activity in a phased manner, depending on whether you are free from corona area. I don't think there is any panic which we could see on his face. चिंता थी, चिंतित नहीं थे, I think अगर हिंदी में बोले तो उस हिसाब से I think I see definitely is worried, but I think this worry is not beyond a point actually. It is worry like a head of the family.
Okay, it's a worry as a head of the family. Chinta the, lekin chintan nahi the. So that's a very nice way of putting it. Lord Krishna often focuses that jab problem aati hai, to chintan kiya karo, chinta mat kiya karo. So Professor Chowdhury or Prashant Tandon ji or Sunil Talati ji, would you like to give any view on is it a time now to think it more seriously?
Let's hear Prashant ji. We haven't heard him.
Yeah.
Since we have panel of economists, so I would would not go to the numbers, because we are in the middle of a turning point of history. And during these times, extraordinary times, you cannot explain through numbers and graphs what will happen. We can only draw parallels what happened in 1920s, what happened post-industrial revolution, what happened post First World War or post Second World War. Or
ask, can you hear us now? Is it available your mic? Then you can also share your point along with Prashant. Yeah, please Prashant, you continue.
So we need to understand this in the perspective of the historical events which took place in recent times, and a gap period of 100 years or so. And last we have seen is disintegration of USSR and the complete capture of market economy, which scholars call it Chicago School, Milton Friedman School of Economics, and what that economics has done. Because of that, we are living in the most modern world in terms of the gadgets we use, in terms of the kind of shopping malls, aeroplanes we have. And then Corona came, and we now see the limitations of science. What will happen from now on, once we recover from this? See, I haven't seen in my life, and I have not even read, when last in the world the ships were not sailing, the aeroplanes were not flying, the railways are not running, the shops are closed, the factories are silent. I have never heard this. Such a huge number of population of the world across continents are sitting at home like us. I think that something unprecedented will come out from here. We have discussed, Professor Ujjwal Chaudhuri, lots of episodes here. That
some bullet points, yeah, Shanti, with some bullet points, if you can just.
Bullet points. I'm just coming to that. That this will create a scenario where the capitalist world will try to use the crisis as an opportunity and impose the ideas which were floating around with the state power. Then the other people, the people, the masses, the progressive lot of the world, the people who are sitting in this panel, they will also come out with many ideas which were floating around, and let's see that how, after we emerge from this crisis, we are definitely going to see a new world. And every time the crisis came, the world map changed, the geopolitics changed, the world balance of power changed, and let's see how this problem, this crisis, when it goes out, what it will leave to the world. I am very optimistic that something very positive, very good will come out from this crisis.
Thank you. Dr. Das, again, we can't hear you. Please unmute your system and then speak. Okay, let me unmute you. Oh, sorry. Yeah, please speak.
You speak now? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go on.
Okay. So now what I say over here, most of my previous speaker has been, like a mixed up reaction. Some are very pessimistic, some are optimistic. So I am in the optimistic side. Obviously there's going to slow down. For a few months, you are going to see, things are not happening the way it is. But I don't see a very bad future at all. Because you see, this is one situation where the entire world is united. We have never seen such a situation before. And if you see the global economy, you can put them into three different sectors. East Asia, China, and some of the countries where they have already over with the pandemic, they're starting their operation. You see the Europe where the pandemic has already flattened out and they're going to, open up their economy. And countries like India and the USA where, we are still in the lockdown period. So if you see the China experience where they have started their operation, some of the sectors have already back to their normal capacity operation, say 60 to 80%. So like the cell phone industry. I just was reading a report on Apple and also Xiaomi that they are back to the operation at 80 to 90%. So obviously they are not being able to produce to the full capacity because the export-import linkage has all broken up and things are not happening that much. But it's not a very pessimistic scenario. This is one thing. Then there are also sectoral issues. Like in India, though we are in the lockdown period, but still the agricultural sector is working, and though healthcare system has really been revamped. There's a lot of investment happening over there. So that means you don't see a zero rate of growth. Some sectors are working. There is a diversion of fund. Some areas, there is nothing is happening, but it's a very temporary phenomenon. So once this temporary phenomenon is over and the production process starts, then the entire economy is really going to move up. How long this is going to take is difficult to say because it's very difficult to predict. But I don't think this situation is going to go on like this for few quarters. So maybe like in people say China is 45 days ahead of the globe. So what is happening in China and other countries are going to have the same experience after 45 days. So if you take this 45 days, that means around say 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 1.5 months. So on average, every economy is having a shutdown of 1.5 to 2 months. So after 2 months, they are going to start the production. So now even China, things are not so bad. They have started operating. So this is what is one experience which I'm very hopeful that situation will not be so gloomy and so bad as you are thinking it to be. This is one. And then the economy, the situation of a depression or a recession, they basically start from the economic cycles or the factors which are inherent in the economy. But this is a situation which is a very external factor, the virus, which is affecting the entire globe. So as all of us are united and there is a global attempt to take care of it, so we are also trying to help each other in the reconstruction process, in the revamping process. So this is another thing which is also very optimistic and also adding a positive dimension to it, in my opinion.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I just want to, for 2 minutes, I'll present some facts maybe for our viewers, and then I'll come back with the question. Number one, so when we say it's a phase of global Great Depression, there are three core indicators of it. One, if the unemployment rate reaches above 25%, then we say that, okay, it is a phase now we are going into global depression, a Great Depression. Second is the housing prices has to go down 30% below. So what we have seen from the experience of 1929 figure, and then the prices would fall below 10%, by 10%. Now, from the Forbes findings, Forbes article, what we see that in 1929, the unemployment rate reached 24.9% in United States and most of the other developed and top countries. If you see, Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis president James Bullard, he said that this time the unemployment rate could touch 30%. So that's a huge figure, and it could hit so 30% low. So 30% people will lose job, and it'll reach 20%. When we talk about GDP, similarly GDP is going to drop. Bullard again, he predicted that 50% drop would be in the GDP, world GDP. And stocks, the Dow stock has already lost 24.5% value now, S&P has also declined by 34%. So these are real figures in front of us. So GDP, unemployment, and the fall of prices, all this. What I want to come with a question to our experts. United States, Europe, China, India, these all countries make a good contribution to the global GDP rate. There is no doubt that big economies are stuck. Do you think that this can be also a reason, and this will lead to a shift to the global world production chain or global supply chain from here? Professor Wagle or Dr. Haque, if you can talk about that.
Thank you. I think your issue that you look into it, and I think I will go back to the idea that when we see a fall in output, and obviously American economy is suffering, that is not. But that does not mean that countries like ours will go down. That is what the first issue. Second issue that you are looking at, prices are going to go down, and this is case. But in most every country, if you look carefully, every government is pumping money into the economy to deal with current unemployment. And that will not actually reduce the price. The problem that I see, and I think it's a great problem, the problem that I see in terms of the economy of the world is how to restart the whole economy the way we think. And I see that if you look at the Chinese experience, it's not going to be zero. It's going to go back to normal because the production capacity is there. So that is one good side of it. While we say unemployment today is very low, and I think if you look into the difficulty that happens in the developed country, not in developing countries like ours, that they have to readjust. And this is one example that we should listen to, that most of the time when you come to a crisis like this, you go back to a new normal, and the scenario is probably not going to be exactly what it was. What I mean, if you look into the even last small recession in 2008, 2009, many many retail stores in America opened these kiosks to sell their products or internet-based sales. And when the recession was over, those jobs did not come back. So you can see that there are economies who have to readjust. We have to wake up with the new normal and say, this is going to happen. Having said this, I think countries like ours should not feel that we are not in a problem. If I look into even Bangladesh, or even, we have news as, for example, production is happening. It's not the same economy as before. So if you look carefully, the poultry farms are in trouble. Milk farms are in trouble because you are producing, but you are not going to sell. And if you cannot sell it, you have a big bankruptcy issues coming. So I think I can see those issues will be there. But my take on recession, that it's probably not going to be recession. The government has to come up with strategies to deal with it. And the strategies has to be prudent one to make sure that we go back to the normal very quickly. So my point that I'm pushing is that we should not be as pessimistic as we think of. We will go back, but the way government has to deal with it, that is one important issue. And we have to think about that agriculture is not, if we say that it's not going to be affected, I do not see that. I think agriculture will be in trouble. You have producing farms, it's not subsistence agriculture. Commercial farms producing milk are in trouble. Commercial poultry farms producing poultry is in trouble. Egg farms are in trouble. So if you look at even vegetables, they are all in trouble. We have communication disruption. So if it continues for a few more months, hopefully it should stop. If it does not, if we do not come up with a solution, what you will see huge bankruptcy among these commercial agriculture and commercial commercial installations that we see. So I see that as a problem. And that is why I'm not saying that there is no problem. It's a huge problem, but that does not mean our economic growth. And that's why my feeling is that, no, I don't see economic growth to be negative. It will be slowing down, but we should be able to go back with the right strategy of the governments.
Professor Wagle, is it going to change the global supply chain? You have to unmute it first. Yeah, Professor Wagle, or if you want...
unmute your phone.
Okay, Professor Wagle, you can speak now. I have just unmuted.
Yeah. So, okay, so let me take you from your point. We are going into new normal. But if you look at all great depressions, we had a new economic theory emerging, new model of economy emerging. If you look at the inflation and the depression of 1921-20, so we went into the regulation. If you look at the Great in the Soviet Union, we went into the central planning and the Achyut Wagle law, if you remember. Then economies, including the US economy, went into the great sort of protectionism. If you look at oil crisis, then we started to liberalize the economy. Then came the era of Reagan, and we said liberal economy is the great. Then came the crisis of 1997, the Asian crisis. We thought the central bank power, the independence is key. So new model came in. And then if you come to 2008-9 Great Recession, we call it, then we said we are into the era of new Keynesianism. So again, the control regimes came in. So what I'm trying to say is the world is going to the same when we come out. That is my first point. There is a second point I want to make. On the very side, even the World Bank that growth rate say 2.8 other day, that is going to come from the South India and China, because China's factory is already open. So that is very positive, optimistic note. But these two economies can also take the energy prices, fuel prices that has gone low. But if you look at the clusters where the growth is coming in the world economy, the economies that depend on the revenue of the oil are totally devastated. If you look at Russia, which is 20% of the national from the oil, and you can imagine that situation, the Gulf countries. So even the production of the shale oil in USA is going to be in deep trouble. So that is one. Another is the look at the industry. That very limited chance into the profit for several years. It is a very long run scenario. If you look at the aftermath of the 2008-9 crisis, the economies like Greece, Portugal, Italy, Spain, still struggling. So that is the second point I wanted to make. For the damage it has done social capital, which has for the imagine we have stopped to go. That has been problem of the spreading the virus. More main spot of spreading the virus. The madrasas, and the panic.
You have mentioned with your voice.
The so we need to look into that. We need to look into that. And last point I make it the governance, the credibility of the governments and the credibility of the institutions, the governments, international amount of money that has happened in the past without the efficiency of the government and the institutions in many of the economies like in India and Nepal. That is going to be difficult to get the benefit out of that.
I have a simple question here. Now we all are positive, optimistic. We are not pessimistic. That's all right. This is a first crisis in the world that has put everything on standstill. It's a unprecedented incident. So we should consider it as an unprecedented incident. We should not consider it as just another recession or just because no human being let this epidemic come in. And so there are two things. The very engine of growth of today's era, in this capitalist era, is consumption. Unless we push consumption, the world is not going to get back into its growth mode. The second thing is free movement of people. People has to travel. We can't put flights on off and we expect the growth is going on. We can't put export on hold and expect that everything would be solved. The world has already put $8 trillion. And with this $8 trillion, there is no sign of economic recovery. It is just the surviving. The world will only survive. Next 1 year, I don't see there is any rise in consumption growth or any conspicuous consumption I'm going to expect from here. So if the consumption is down, if the movement of people and export is down, what can lead us back to the normal growth trend?
Can I speak?
Yeah, please. Anyone,
Okay.
open to the panel.
So no, you have a big panel, so it is good to tell names to avoid problems. Anyway, I have been listening to everyone. It's interesting to see that some scholars find that, and with logic, find that it may be slowing down but not recession. Some scholars feel that it will be quite a big recession, and one or two scholars even talk of depression. So it's quite a big range of difference amongst us. Good to know that, because it helps us thinking in multiple ways. I would like to point out this word new normal has been used a couple of times by all of us. The new normal is not going to be exactly equal to the pre-normal, pre-COVID normal. So in the new normal, the entire focus, you just now used the word conspicuous demand, Akram, which is usually for luxuries. So I do not think that the conspicuous demand will be the focus of the economy going ahead. The focus of the in the earlier economy, if I say pre-COVID and post-COVID, if the pre-COVID economy, so stock market had companies producing oil, natural gas, then chemicals, weaponry, arms. Such companies as high, even diamonds and jewelry, as highly placed companies in the stock market. In the new normal, healthcare, food, essential products, technology, edutech, fintech, there will be companies which will be placed higher. The new normal will be different that way. In the earlier economy, the purchasing power of a certain section was extremely high, and another section was very poor. The $8 trillion will go finally up to maybe 12, 13 or $18 trillion also. The moment, I mean, Indian government itself, for example, has only put in 1.7 lakhs crores. It has to put more than 5 lakhs crores. Many other countries will also put in. So this money will go into the demand side of the economy. The demand side of the economy will create consumption, and this consumption will not be for conspicuous products, conspicuous demand. It will be for essentials. Essentials going up to maximum a bit of comforts. But therefore, the focus of the economy is now more on comforts and luxuries. It will move to essentials and a bit of comforts. So the focus would be different. And there need not be so much of travel around. There can be, I mean, we are getting used to it. Just now we are doing a conference across 3 countries. We are getting used to this learning online. We are getting used to medical care online. We are getting used to even legal. There has been judges passing judgments online. I mean, hearing is being conducted online. In Japan, few days earlier, there was a convocation of the university online, digital convocation. So the point is we are getting used to a new normal in a real sense that will reduce cost on many fronts. So I also see a positive thing that my learned colleagues have said, that we can bounce back to a large extent. But we will bounce back surely, for sure. Mankind, this 8 billion people will bounce back. But this time, the investment in public health has to be higher. It is just 1.8% in India. Shameful. It has to be. The world must put more than 5% of the total budget, global budget, in education, in healthcare. This will be the new normal. People will demand better quality of life. And the focus on that will bring back consumption, and consumption of a certain different categories in a larger manner. This small immediate point I wanted.
Yeah. Professor Das, I think you are still.
So let me add a point, Mr. Akram.
Yeah.
So, even being very optimistic, look at the science of it. The most optimistic outlook would be the economy should now plan to cohabit with the coronavirus itself. For example, the agricultural product is there, but the consumers are not buying just because in a suspicion that it may be contaminated. So in a very optimistic scenario, we are not going to have a vaccine or any kind of medicine, at least within 2 years at the fastest. So that means we have to cohabit with that, and we need to, and the governments need to plan. Now everybody has got the mindset that day lockdown is lifted in any number of countries, India, Nepal, or any other country, the next day will be normal. It will not be. it will be a very gradual takeoff, and we have to have adequate security measures to protect the virus, to protect from the virus in the industries, in the agricultural setup, in the markets, in the schools. If you look at the education, I think it is going to be a very difficult to operate the physical classes.
Okay.
So I think we need to have, the governments need to plan in the long run, and also look into the strength. Like we have great strength investing in the health infrastructure. This is an opportunity. This is the great time to address the urban poverty and other urban divide between the have and have nots. And the technology, as you rightly said, technology we had so far just extra on top of what we were using. We can probably need to invest more on the increase the access of the people on the technology and the productive use of it. It is not a Zoom or Google Meet or Viber. That is not the customized service oriented technology has got market. So I think even being optimistic, the role of the government, where the government are going to put money, it is not going to happen. The other day, Canada announced that there will not be layoff if there is factories are closed. The government is going to pay the salary. So there should be not the optimism, the plans to live with the coronavirus, it being making economies productive. That should be the strategy, and it is the high time we need to work on it.
Okay. I think Dr. Sunil Talati is, Professor Das, you have to unmute. You have to unmute. Actually, I am also disturbing with your system. I am trying to unmute you. Please go on. No, you have again unmuted.
Thank you.
Can I speak?
Notwithstanding the optimistic view or pessimistic view, let me convey 5 important points, because when I'm talking on facts and figures and on ground reality.
Sure, sir.
Let us understand what Vinod Ji mentioned, that today Prime Minister again emphasized the importance and harp on the jaan hai to jahan hai. Though he said jaan bhi hai or jahan bhi hai, but today he said wherever there is a laxity, more strict actions will be taken. Meaning thereby, he is caring more for the lives of the nation rather than the production of the nation. See the example of foreign countries which was stated by my earlier speaker. 20,000 plus deaths in USA, Italy, France and Spain, and 10,000 plus in Britain. Why? Because they have cared more for the economic development and not for the life of the people. President had gone to the extent of saying there will be a death of 100,000 people. And our Prime Minister is not willing to leave even 1,000 deaths. So focus of Honorable Prime Minister and government is that our 135 crore people should not lead to more corona death. Point 1. Point 2, let us talk of the recession impact. 2 or 3 weeks already passed. If we talk of recession in real estate, predictions are it would go down to 30%. And if I can share my personal knowledge with others, in Gujarat and in Maharashtra, it is already down by 15% in just 1 month. So recession is real estate is for sure, and it may go above 30% if not 30%. Another barometer readily available is our own stock market. From 40,000 plus, it has already touched bottom of 30,000. And take it from me, when tomorrow the stock exchange will open, because of this extension, it will be down by another 2,000 points bare minimum. So stock exchange also shows the severe recessionary trend in the securities and stock market. Fourth, let us appreciate that moment the 3rd May is over, or tomorrow when various relaxations and exemptions are announced by the government, take it from very clear that industry who want to start the production would need working capital. Where is going to this come from? As an auditors, we know since last 50 years, every nationalized bank's audited accounts were out by 2nd week of April. And now we are in the 3rd week of April and the audit has not even commenced. So we don't know the situation of all nationalized banks, what is their financial strength and reality. Neither the branch audits are done, nor the statutory audits are done. And when they are not knowing the reality, where is the money for working capital or term loan coming from bank to this industrialist? Be as it may, even if they are there, try to understand that factory is not like a computer laptop that you put the plug in and switch and it would start. There is a work in progress, which is all useless if the new cycle production is done. If they want new production, they need to have inventory. Where is the inventory? If raw material is exhausted, the transportation will take its own time to come and start the production. Those who have raw material stock will have to do the production. They will carry the inventory cost, because where are the transporters who deliver the finished products immediately to the respective buyers? And even if they are delivered, where is the money going to come from for the sale products? There is going to be huge bad debt, huge outstanding, tremendously heavy outstanding recovery of above 6 months, which is normally of not more than 30 days. Now 30 days outstanding data is going to 180 days. And that's why the prediction of, I repeat, 8 lakh crore to 20 lakh crore rupees is already there on our economy. And coming to agriculture, Vinodji was very right in saying that yes, there is no problem. Agriculture produce are already there on the land. But gentlemen, we have to understand that that ready crop has to be harvested, cut, stored in the godown, and again to be delivered. How they will be delivered? These are perishable items. And if they are not takers, there will be tremendous loss to the farmers. So there is an impact of all the four sides on the economy. Unfortunately, with utmost respect to our honorable, to whom, of course, the health of country also at his heart.
Thank you, Sunilji.
Has not
lot of
addressed
points.
this
Lot of
issue
points.
at
In
all.
fact, there is no
Yeah,
end
so
of all
one
the
more-
points that you are
yeah.
making. Yeah, Professor Das.
So here
Let
I
us
just
speak.
want to emphasize one more thing. See, so far we haven't talked about climate change and biodiversity,
Absolutely.
which is actually the cause of this coronavirus. Things are really not going to be in a situation switch on and switch off. The things are going to be normal, automatically with a very quick time. That will be. But now the new normal, the new lifestyle we have to think about. People are this concept of conspicuous consumption has to be redefined now. Now people are wanting to be climate friendly, nature friendly. They want to maintain a lifestyle which is very ecologically sustainable. So this whole concept of sustainable growth has again been mainstream at the moment. So this gives enough scope to India to capitalize on this new concept and this new demand which is going to be generated globally. So now there are many people saying, like our health sector, the type of so the yoga, the naturopathy, the Ayush ministry, now they are having a tremendous scope. So we also can capitalize on this type of thing, which is really going to be in high demand in the future. So this gives us enough scope. So few things we have to give up, like Professor Enamul Haque already said, few things are really going to redefine. Our lifestyle also is going to change. Maybe people will not, go for travel. The concept of tourism may also change. The type of tourism we had before, maybe people will go for a different type of health tourism now. So that also is giving a different, avenue to the world leaders and especially to India to seek for those things. I think we do really have a good chance to capitalize on these things. Now, travel of people and travel of goods, they're two different things. So even if people are not traveling, so there is nothing going to stop import and export. Once things are normal, then import and export starts, then production also is going to pick up. So there are not many things to be very, very pessimistic about it. And at least for India, I can see, a better future and also many more avenues to revamp our economy, go green. So this is something which we have already been talking about. Now I think it's the time we have to rethink, and when you restart our economy, so this concept of green, this concept of sustainability, and this concept of being in harmony with nature, that all of us has to think, and also government also is thinking already in those lines. I was thinking, the strategy for China's economy, they're also going green now. They're all emphasizing on the green concept, the green energy, the green, lifestyle. So I think similarly also, most of the global leaders, including India, so they're going to go over there. Now, because of this shutdown, I can see how the nature is coming back to, in a very beautiful forms. Pollution going down, water level, quality being better, air quality being better. So now people are also learning. So these are few things which the climate change debate also has been, halted down, because we know that the emission has gone down. So these are some of the very positive things that also has made people to rethink their lifestyle. So everything is not, negative or pessimistic. So we also are learning.
Excellent,
and I think
excellent point. Vinod Jain ji, you had some points. After that, next 20 minutes, I want to spend on solutions. Yeah, Vinodji, your last
I think
comment.
I'm not going to take too much time. I will like to say, rather than consumption-led growth, the growth is going to be saving-led and investment-led growth, actually. The great idea of, always putting consumption in front, coming from the European and the American countries to India, I think it is, we have really seen what is the impact of it.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the eating habits, I see a big change it is going to happen, because we have seen the entire epidemic has come because of the eating habits of the Chinese. And I think earlier we had seen bird flu coming. Now we have that is called swine flu. Now this is coming from another bird. So I think people will hesitate going into the non-vegetarian, and I think more and more people may become vegetarian. This impact is also bound to come. It is all likelihood. If we see, about $83 billion worth of outflow of the FII investment has already taken place. Even when the lockout was announced, I think, of course, thereafter the market is so much down that even the FIIs are not able to really sell from India. So I see it is going to definitely have a long-term impact on the investment activity. But the local investment will have to pick up. And we see silver lining coming from Japan's announcement that they are actually going to give additional incentive for shifting industries from China to India. And I think as an Indian, I see they have already announced a big aid. And if the Indian government has actually taken it in the right spirit, if the Indian government actually take it further, not only Japan, it is entire Europe and America. I think a lot of production bases which are today in China, which is actually led by them, is likely to shift to India. So I say India is going to have a silver lining definitely in future. But as Talati ji has very rightly said, cash flow is going to be a big issue for industry and businesses, because there is the fixed overheads of interest, there is a fixed overhead of rental, there is a salary as a fixed overhead. Nobody is going to actually permit you to actually remove your people at least for a few months. And I think other fixed overheads are there, and there's no revenue for these 2-3 months. So I think, and there's a low revenue in another 3 months also. So all that is bound to have an impact severe impact on cash flows. So banks will have to actually do maybe at least a 12 months moratorium. I think even the insolvency court also have to undergo a moratorium of 12 months. And I think that way, Government of India has really taken a very big step, initial step, when even the lockout started, they postponed, they gave a 3 months moratorium to all the EMIs and the things like.
Yeah. So solutions, I'll now come. I have a couple of questions. So this is the final round. We'll take your comments, final comments on this, and then I'll conclude the session. There are too many speakers. We have many experts, so we'll have diverse points, and we'll put forward all the points together and present it to the government, giving the suggestions. Now we need solutions for this, and solution has to come comprehensively. Otherwise, we can't save from the damage that it's going to have. Couple of questions, if you can note down and then give answer on. By when do we expect things to be normal? All the measures that the governments are taking, are they in the right way, and are they enough? What more should we do there? Is the saving and investment led model, growth model, sustainable? Because that will be a huge shift in that. Fourth question, that American GDP, there are a lot of papers in America, they are saying that the GDP of United States will drop to $14 trillion, or $13 to $14 trillion from $17 to $18 trillion it has now. Post-corona, if it lasts for 12 months or 14 months, are we going to see a new economic superpower? And if the new economic superpower comes in, what is going to be the world production or world supply chain, world production chain? Where now does India have a geopolitical advantage in this situation? So if now Japan is giving its companies $2 billion to come out from China, if United States is giving its companies to move out from there, does India have any geopolitical advantage to cash on from there? Yeah, so we'll start with Dr. Enamul Haque.
Yes, thank you very much. I think that you have posed the right set of questions. On the first question, when are we going to be normal? I think it's a billion-dollar question. We do not know when, but we cannot wait for very long. We have to find a strategy of gradually opening up the economy, and that should be there. The most important part here is that if you look at South Asia, millions of poor people who do not have huge savings. So if you want to deal with them, the strategy has to be very cleverly done so that you can come back quickly. Otherwise, you will be in trouble. These people do not have savings to go on without work for another 2 months. That is very difficult one. So they may not die from corona, they may die from hunger. And that is the strategy that government has to think. Are the governments doing the best thing? I'm not fully familiar with all of Indian strategies, but what I see from global strategies that we see around, everybody is looking how to protect the large companies. I think the strategy should be how to protect the poorer people in the society, and that is an important one. The money that you need, big companies, yes, they have a debt crisis coming. How do you help them to deal with debt crisis? That should be the temporary strategy. Other than that, food crisis could be a problem globally. I think that is a major issue that government should think about it, because these are the production seasons coming, and if we do not have input movement, if we do not have product movement, there is a major food crisis going to come, and that is going to be, to me, the big red mark in the sky that we should be thinking about it. The third point of this that you have mentioned about it, that whether the GDP of the American government will be going down, and that is perfect, that is going to happen. But I'm not pessimistic in the sense, I think what your point is whether there will shift in the economic power of the world, and I believe that is going to be. What you will see that the growth will be led by Asia. I'm not going to say it is one country, it will be most of a growth in Asia. Asia still has an advantage. And now they have, with this, what will happen? The growth will be led by Asia. Most of the countries will be investing in Asia in order to protect. So if you think about countries in de-investing and saying, I'm going to getting out of China, going to be coming back to your own country, that is not the way to come back. You have to open up the economies, and that will be there because Chinese are big economy. There's a big consumer demand there, so the people have to. The reason Japanese went to the China was because of the Chinese economy. So I don't believe that that will be the right strategy. The strategy will be use the growing demand of Asia. Asia still has a growing population, and use it to your advantage to come back from there. That should be the strategy. So I think that is how I see the world coming. I'm more worried about this day laborer, the working group who do not have huge savings. And for the next 3 to 4 months, how to deal with these people. And I think fourthly, we have to go back to a new change and era, not only in terms of political or economic powerhouses, but we have to think about a new way of looking at Asia so that we come up with a look. You remember the last time Asia did come back and protect, save the whole global recession. So this will be again aggregate demand within the Asia that will change the scenario. And that will happen.
Thank you.
Many countries who are domestically oriented will come back, will open up.
Excellent. Professor Achyut Wagle, Professor, Kathmandu University School of Management, Nepal. So you have to unmute, sir.
Unmute.
So that's another problem.
First of all, it is going to persist. At least if you believe in science, listening to Microsoft chief Bill Gates, at least it is going to 8 months to approve something. First thing, let's not think that when it is going to end. So let's strategy to manage things despite the virus in some form of it, in the control or contained form. That is the first point. Second, what the government policy should be, the government should not have one legacy incentives of some reduction on the interest, the time of postponement payment of the mortgage and installment. So every government should consider the banking crisis and liquidity crisis is large pending. It is going to be a very big problem. Liquidity management, it looks like deferral of payment looks good, but that is, we are actually putting banks in the problem, their profitability in the problem, their liquidity movement in the problem. Second, particularly in the South Asia, including India, the foreign exchange is going to be a very huge problem because was sort of deficit economy in terms of the international trade, and then the India is the one of the largest receivers of the remittance out to the tune of $100 billion per year. All those workers, maybe in the Gulf, in other countries, are not being able to remit back. I don't know what happens there, sort of employment there. And we come back, additional burden, that is a different thing. But balance of this, and main of the big export is going to be used on banking crisis and liquidity. Another is the foreign exchange.
Professor Wagle, we wanted some solutions so that countries can recover from it.
Okay. So what I'm saying is, it is not enough for the governments to announce only the policies. There has to be a stimulus package. Okay, India has announced some $22 billion package, but that is not going to be enough to pay for the layoff staff, to re-energize the supply chain, broken supply chain, and to meet the import, the economies would do. So there has to be a purse. That purse will come like the packages of the World Bank. They have announced just the March announced that there should be $2.5 trillion package, some form of the helicopter money to draw from the IMF, about 1 trillion, and then the similar things. The World Bank other day said that the $1 billion would be given to India for the health infrastructure. So there should be some green can cure. That's the second point. Third point on your sort of US and safety in, yes, I think I would agree with Professor Haque. If you look at the China, India, Japan, Vietnam, Indonesia, and even Bangladesh, those have been the growth engines. It may be in disguise that we're being able to, in the huge numbers, there will be some deaths, but the economic engine grow. So whether we like it or not, China has not stopped its industrial production, again going sort of the pool of the economic power.
Thank you.
Our
Excellent.
economy known as the factory of world.
Okay.
So that is that. So on the fourth
because of
point,
because of your internet connection, actually a lot of points are not coming out properly. Maybe we would request you, sir, kindly write an article, write a nice piece on this. We'd be very happy to publish and also come up with the government. So Professor Chowdhury, I think you were raising your hand. We'll come back to you. So if you can be a little short and brief, please, with your bullet points, all the questions that I have posed, and if you can give the bullet point answers to it.
First of all, I will agree to some of the speakers that overnight COVID is not going to vanish. So it will be there. Maybe the tail end may be a little longish. Flattening of the curve is happening, but tail end may be longish. And therefore, we cannot put a time of 1 year or 2 years for everything to be normal, because it is going to be a new normal, which is not equal to the previous normal. We have discussed that. So nuanced, staggered, and localized lockdowns, localized strategies will be there for a very long time. So exactly the same amount of production and consumption cannot happen. Then going ahead, rightly, Dr. Das has said, green and clean economy will be a major demand and a reality of times to come. Sustainability will be high on the radar. And public health and public education, I have been batting for it from the very beginning. Public health and public education will be a focus area. People's demand, groups' demand, lobbies' demand will be there in favor of public health and public education. Public investments, I agree to CA Vinod Jain ji, there will be investment-led growth, but this time it has to be to begin with public investments and international body investments. So investments to increase on the demand side of the people, and investments to also re-energize production from the public sector, from the government side, will be a necessity going ahead. Energy, the rise of the alternative energy will be another major area to focus on. Easy terms of credits. The banks cannot have the interest-free loans for a very long time, but easy terms of credit have to be there. We also have seen that several developed economies of the world have credits, interest rates much lower than Asia. So we need to look at that as well. Consumptions of essentials will go up. And I totally agree. The recession that the world is will be having or already is having may turn into a serious recession, but Asian economy, Asian people, and Asian consumption will be a major bulwark against further recession of the world. These are the points, and I agree with Dr. Haque on that point of the Asian revival once again.
Thank you. Vinod Jain, maybe Dr. Das, if you please.
Yeah,
you
okay. Very quickly, I just want to
kindly highlight the solutions and also the kind of questions I have.
So on the first question, when things are going to be normal, it's very difficult to say, but there are already people who are working on economic models, mathematical models, and there are also research papers coming out from different universities. What they say is that, we have 1.5 months of lockdown and give another 1.5 months for things to get normal. So maybe by the end of, 3 to 4 months, things are going to look pick up. So if you go by that trend, say maybe by August, September, things in India should be normal. This is one thing I am very optimistic that by August, we should be able to that. Second, all the government measures. Here I have a very strong point. If you see India, the day the lockdown was declared, you see this unprecedented response from the unorganized sector. This was one situation where the unorganized sector in India behaved in the most organized manner. Everybody was on the road and they wanted to go back to their home. So this is something which is unprecedented, and government, I think they were also taken aback. The government never expected this response. So what it calls is that now government has to prioritize all the activities for the unorganized sector and make them, informed. Most of their reaction came because they did not trust the government that things will be normal or they'll be taken care of. They said, they'll be left on the road. This is one thing. So there is more capacity building, more information to the organized sector, and the activities, whatever they're trying to do for the organized and the poor sector, that has to be more focused and more organized now. This is one. Third thing, coming to GDP is definitely going to go down, and we have seen in America that's going to happen everywhere. It is going to go down. But now one thing is that India is going to get more priority in the way we are controlling corona. If this trend continues, if you see the per capita infection in India has been the lowest, in spite of such a high concentration, high density of population is very low. So now people are really appreciating the way we have been controlling this disease, and if we are able to continue this trend, then I think Indian healthcare and Indian policy responses are really going to be in the global focus, and we are going to get a lot of. So that this India is going to get the focus. Indian health sector is going to get the priority.
Okay, so noted. Sorry, your voice is not coming again, Dr. Das.
Yeah.
So Dr. Das, I think there is again another issue with your voice.
Okay, Mr. Akram, can I add a point?
I'll have 2-3 points.
Yeah, please. Sunil.
See, I would entirely agree with the made of view that yes, it will be June ending when the production would start and the cycle would finish. India would be on the normal position by September end. But that normal position means what we were prior to pre-corona situation. Imagine we were having average 100,000 crore rupees collection of GST. It will be less than 10,000 crore rupees for the month of April. Where is the government going to get money from? Government also has to run the country. All import is totally prohibited as of now. No imports are coming. Where is the custom duty collection is going to come? All exports are stopped. Where is the foreign exchange going to come? All this will take substantial time to generate the cycle back to normal. And therefore, what is required are only two important things. Banks will have to come out in a very liberal way, both for cash credit facilities and temporary term loans and extension of various EMI, be it domestic, be it industrial, be it trade and commerce. And secondly, government will have to come out with various packages, particularly for MSME industries, that yes, if they are facing the shortage of finance, how they can be given buffer. Unless these three things are not happening, it will be very difficult for the country to survive. It's very easy to say that yes, we can change our habits, but it is also said old habits die hard. So it is extremely difficult for a country like India with a massive population to change the habits of the people and shift on Ayurvedas and naturopathy and other things. It is very simple to say, but when it comes to implementation, it would take a long time. I'm not saying impossible, but it would take a long time. What we are here to address is immediate measure and not a long-time measures.
Absolutely.
Therefore, you very rightly mentioned, Akram, you should note down all these points and give certain suggestions to the government for immediate suggestions for the improvement of the economy. Thank you
so much. Vinod Jain ji, just giving some solutions.
I'll be very bullet points primarily in your words. Actually, I think when you say it becomes normal, normal will be only end of 2020. I don't think it is going to be normal, but it is going to be recovery process may start from 1st of July or something. That is what I feel it is going to happen. As far as government measures are concerned, I think most important issue with the government is that the businesses have enough money. And for that matter, even if inflation is there, arising out of deficit financing, be it is what it is. And I think government need not really worry about it at this stage, because even if there is inflation, the price rise, the economic revival will become eased out of this process. So what I feel is that the NPA norms, RBI need to revisit 12-month moratorium for the repayment, and I think reschedulement of repayment of other loans also, cash infusion into the banking sector, and of course into the industry. Interest rate cut, I think another interest rate cut is due. I feel they have already done some initiative of 0.75%. It has come down, but I think it need to go down by another 150 basis point. Interest rate cut is definitely necessary. The insolvency law, the SURFACE law, the DRT law, all three need to be suspended at least for a period of a year. And I think we can really look at it, how we can really come back to them. It is going to definitely impact the banking sector, NPA rising. But I think we need not worry about NPA rising at this stage. We need to worry about economic revival, because all these resources are not going to go away anywhere. I think as far as foreign exchange, Mr. Talati, of course, raised the issue from where the foreign exchange will come. I think we have sufficient foreign exchange reserves. On the other hand, oil imports have become very, very cheap, comparatively cheap. And import in any case is going to be very, very limited to only what we definitely need. For example, for our medical need or for our industry. Because one thing which we have to be very careful from Chinese kind of countries, because they may still play a big trick of dumping into India. And I think that dumping into India need to be actually that planning India need to do, that all that malicious dumping is taken care by 15% to 20%, maybe even 25%, maybe anti-dumping duty might be, across the board on Chinese goods might become necessary, because investigation ka samay nahi hai, I feel so. As far as GDP is concerned, you are expecting a GDP downfall for US. I think it is going to be similar case for Europe also, and similar case for China, similar case for India. It is bound to be there, but I think ultimately this will all start recovering from July. And I feel GDP recovery we should not really worry about. And of course, the silver lining coming as far as India is concerned, you rightly said that industries can come to India, but there is a very big challenge. Our Land Acquisition Act itself is a very big challenge. Availability of land and building in India is a big issue. China, as we have seen, has been providing ready-made factories to people. You can start your business, your factory in 2 weeks. I think some of our clients have started in 2 weeks of factories. In India, is that possible? So I think we have to really see how government give incentives and initiatives for industries coming into India, not only from outside investors, but also from local investors. And I think all these compliances which are there, all these rules of the game, too much compliance has to go away and give place to a single form to be filed in a year by a businessman. I think Mr. Talati has rightly said that possibly GST collection has gone down to 10,000 crores or something. So government, I think expenses also has to be cut down. Government has already announced a big cut down on expenses, except on medical infrastructure, which is getting created in a big way. So I think it is all going to be actually reshuffled. And I think one very big positive thing which is going to come is India will be medically more equipped as a country. And I think India is in any case become more educated, whether we have gone to school or not, but we have become educated to something. At least we have become more particular about our disease factor. And the Swachhata Abhiyan of Pradhan Mantri Modi has really now come into play. Every half an hour, every 15 minutes, you go and wash your hands. I think this is something unimaginable. So this is going to have a big impact on the entire working style methodology.
Prashant,
I like to stop here. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prashant. Final comment and maybe conclude the session.
No, I would rather choose not to fill any figures in a cyclo-style sheet, because it's an evolving situation, and in evolving situation you can't predict. You open airlines and you expect airlines would be filling same amount of seats, generating same amount of revenues. You open up shopping malls and you expect same amount of footfall. People are lining up to buy stuff. This is not going to happen. As Professor Ujjwal has said, there will be a new normal, and new normal would be, today, your pre-corona, 75% of the world consumption was with Europe and America. I think this will change to some extent what people are consuming. See, all economy is based on consumption. What people consumption, then people supply. Then on base of supply, the some certain products are produced and certain countries produce, and then that production change and supply chain, build up the economy. I think this fundamental change will come, and one factor which I want to point out is in developed economies, what they see. I'm listening to all prime ministers address to their people. Developed economies have given 8 to 10, 20, 20 up to 18, 19%, of the GDP to the crisis. Out of that, very fat slice have gone directly to the people in terms of direct money transfer. In India, this is not happening. I have listened 3 addresses to our Prime Minister. No economic package was announced. We certain RBI and government put together and put 4.5 lakh crore into system, but that 4.5 lakh crore is not going to people. Is maybe going to certain pockets, certain industries, certain people. The people who are getting direct money, they become the real new buying power of tomorrow in next transition phase of 3 to 6 months. Let's say 2 quarters. And after 2 quarters, the things will start emerging from the ashes. The new world order, the new interest rates, new kind of tariff regimes, new kind of institutions will come up. And we can't predict at the moment who will be leading the world, but certainly what I can see is the status quo will be changed.
Thank you so much, Prashant Tandon. So we need to conclude the session. We are actually of the time. Professor Chowdhury, do you want to say maybe?
I just wanted to say that it was very nice discussion that we had in spite of the divided opinion, but there was a quality of discussion was good. We would like from our university would like to do decoding new normal webinar very soon. I might through Akram get in touch with our guests today for further work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Experts, wonderful way. You can disconnect your connection. Viewers, so this was a vibrant discussion with our eminent speakers on are we in a recession or a Great Depression? There is no doubt the entire world is in recession. The problem now, the only point is how are we now considering it as a recession? Are we mentally ready and accepting the fact that we are into recession? Then what kind of measures are we going to take? So this is a very important question that governments from developing countries especially need to address, especially countries from South Asia, countries from Africa, because the amount of impact is almost going to come same. The economic impact is going to be same. Healthcare impact, we don't know. It will depend on the preparation of the countries, but the economic impact is going to be almost same. Now, it will depend on which governments are taking what degree of proactiveness in economic packages and coming up with economic packages and rescue packages. That will make a huge difference. Definitely, we are going to see economically a new superpower coming in. Might be China can overtake United States in terms of the largest economy of the world, because American GDP is going to go down the way America is affected. There is no way America can come up in the next 6 months. If America is down for next 6 months, and China on the other hand would definitely come up. So this is our all, but definitely the world will change post-corona. And I think we should now start mentally preparing ourselves that what would be our role and what would be the design and process of our organizations to fit in the new order, as Professor Chowdhury says. Thank you so much. If you have not registered our channel, do subscribe and register and like our channel. We'll come back to you again tomorrow morning with morning news bulletin, afternoon at 1 p.m. with some health telethon, in evening India policy show. Thank you so much, experts, for being with us, and we'll be back tomorrow again. Thank you. Keep watching the Policy Times.